Chapter 14. Comparison of cycle models, Dalio, Strauss-Howe, and Kondratiev. Across the last century, several thinkers from different disciplines have independently identified recurring patterns in history. Though they approach the subject from economics, generational sociology, or geopolitics, they converge on one fundamental insight. History does not move in a straight line. Yet each model captures only one layer of a deeper structure. Nikolai Kondratiev, The Economic Wave. Kondratiev identified long economic waves of approximately 50 to 60 years, driven by technological innovation, credit expansion, boom, saturation, and collapse. His model explains when economic expansions and contractions tend to occur, but not why societies repeatedly fall into the same excesses, nor why crises return even as technologies change. Kondratiev describes the rhythm of markets, not the moral weight carried through time. Strauss-Howe, The Generational Cycle. Strauss and Howe proposed a recurring cycle of roughly 80 to 90 years, composed of 4 generational turnings: high, awakening, unraveling, crisis. This framework explains with striking accuracy collective psychology, cultural conflict, and the recurrence of existential crises separated by a full human lifespan. However, Strauss-Howe describes behavior, not moral law, explains social dynamics, but not ethical accountability, observes the pattern, but does not define what history answers to. Strauss-Howe explains how generations act, but not to what they are held accountable. Ray Dalio, The Cycle of Debt and Power. Ray Dalio broadened the lens by analyzing cycles of debt accumulation, the rise and fall of empires, shifts in the global order. His work is empirical and systemic, drawing from cases such as the Dutch, British, and American empires. Dalio shows that collapse is not accidental, but the result of excessive debt, internal fragmentation, moral, educational, and institutional decay. Yet his model stops at the mechanics of decline, not its transcendent meaning. Dalio explains how power collapses, but not why time itself demands an accounting. The essential difference, covenant. All 3 models are largely correct, yet incomplete. Kondratiev captures economic structure. Strauss-Howe captures generational memory. Dalio captures the architecture of power. This biblical numerological framework proposes a deeper layer beneath them all: the covenant that orders time. Beneath economics, generations, and empires lies a prior law, a moral principle that structures time and measures historical responsibility. That principle is not statistical, not ideological, not technological. It is covenant. The 84-year cycle as point of convergence. The central 84-year cycle, 3 by 28, functions as a point of convergence for all 3 models. It aligns with the full generational cycle, Strauss-Howe. It contains a long and a medium economic wave, Kondratiev. It marks the testing phase of imperial order, Dalio. When this cycle closes, living memory fades. Excess returns. Time examines what was inherited. History does not reset. It renders account. Final synthesis. Modern models describe the symptoms of cyclical history. This framework proposes the moral cause of recurrence. History does not collapse by chance. It does not repeat from ignorance. It returns in cycles because the covenant was forgotten. And when memory is lost, time asks again. Chapter 15. When time was placed under oath. And there came a day when time ceased to be merely time. A day when a nation was not born by signatures and seals, but by spoken word. For so it has always been in Scripture. First the declaration, then the writing. First the consecration of time, then the ordering of history. It was not on the 2nd day of August that America was born. It was on the 4th day of July when the word was lifted and the world heard. That day did not close a ledger. It opened a covenant. 4 is the number of the earth, the 4 winds, the 4 corners, the fullness of the created world. By choosing the 4th day, the founders placed the nation in the dust of history, not upon heavenly thrones. They said without saying, "Our power shall be earthly, our authority human, our work judged in the world." But the 4 do not walk alone. July is the 7th month, and 7 is the number of covenant, of completion, of sacred time set apart. 7 days to creation. 7 cycles to rest. 7 is the mark that something has been separated and placed under responsibility. When 4 and 7 were joined, the world itself was placed under oath. Thus was formed a civic covenant, not a priestly kingdom, not a theocracy, not a people chosen to rule without limit, but a nation summoned to answer. Liberty, yes, but under law. Power, yes, but under conscience. Sovereignty, yes, but under judgment. The men who raised that word were not blind to the weight of symbol. Some were trained in languages of measure, number, and time. Some had learned that the world is a temple and history an altar. They proclaimed no secret rites. They proclaimed a principle. The day chosen speaks louder than 1,000 speeches. The declaration itself bore witness when it invoked the laws of nature and of nature's God. It claimed no divine immunity, only moral accountability. It did not ask for blessing without condition. It accepted judgment without complaint. And so the covenant began to unfold. The 4 pressed the nation outward across rivers and plains, mountains and borders, across the breadth of land. The 7 whispered purpose, mission, destiny, and the world named it manifest destiny. Yet every biblical covenant carries a silent warning: the hand that blesses also weighs. Expansion may be stewardship, or it may become domination. Mission may be service, or it may decay into arrogance. Covenant does not guarantee permanence, it demands faithfulness. And the clock began to turn. Cycle after cycle, generation after generation, memory thinned. The witnesses of the first word passed away. The promise was inherited, but not always remembered. And when memory fails, time returns to ask the same question in another voice. For history does not merely repeated accounts. The 4 and the 7 were not ornaments. They were measures. They were signs. They were warnings etched into the calendar. The day was not chosen for convenience, but for alignment. Time itself was placed under oath. And now, as cycles close and trials return, the question is not whether the nation was great, but whether it was faithful. Not how much it conquered, but what it guarded. Not what it proclaimed to the world, but whether it honored the word it spoke when time was consecrated. For every nation born under covenant will be measured by the covenant. and every history that begins with a declaration will end with a reckoning. Thus speaks time when it ceases to be a calendar and becomes a witness,